At 4:18 a.m., the house was doing what expensive houses do, pretending nothing ever breaks. The climate system hummed behind the walls. The refrigerator clicked once. The security panel in the foyer blinked a steady green, like a heartbeat that didn't belong to anyone in this bed. I was awake anyway, not panicked, not fully alert. Just awake the way you get awake when your life has been slightly off for too long, like your body has accepted the truth your mind keeps negotiating. Terrence slept with an arm draped across my waist, warm and careless. His phone vibrated on the nightstand. One short buzz. Not a call, just a message. The screen lit up face down, a pale blade of light against the dark wood. Terrence didn't move. Then it vibrated again. The first phone, his real phone, was always loud with work alerts and sports scores. The second one, the one he said didn't exist, was quieter. It only came alive at hours like this. I didn't touch anything. I just watched, counting the seconds between each buzz, the way you count thunder to estimate how close the storm is. At 4:20, the vibrations stopped. The house swallowed the secret whole. Terrence murmured something into the pillow. It might have been my name. It might have been someone else's. In the dark, they sounded the same. By 6:03, thin gold lines were creeping around the curtains. I eased out from under his arm and went downstairs. The kitchen smelled like detergent and last night's basil, clean and false. I made coffee the way Terrence liked it. Dark roast, 2 sugars, a splash of cream. Eggs, toast, fruit. The good plates. The house always had to look like the life he wanted people to believe we lived. At 6:30, Yvette appeared in the doorway, in a silk robe the color of champagne, gliding in like she belonged to the architecture. Her slippers made no sound on the marble. She studied the breakfast spread with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Well," she said, stretching the word. "You didn't burn it today." "Good morning, Ms. Cole," I said. She poured coffee into my mug, the plain black one I'd bought for myself, because small thefts were her favorite kind. Then she looked me over. "You look tired," she observed. "I didn't sleep well." She sipped slowly. "That's what happens when you carry a man's worries. Some women aren't built for it." "Some women, not me." Terrence came down at 7:05 in pressed slacks and a crisp white shirt, the uniform of a man who never questioned his own importance. He kissed his mother's cheek. He didn't kiss me. He ate fast, distracted. Then he checked his watch. "I'm meeting the investors downtown. I'll be back late." "Downtown," I repeated, careful. "That's new?" His fork paused. "Why are you tracking me?" "I'm not tracking you, I'm asking." He leaned closer, cologne and arrogance. "You ask a lot lately." "I'm your wife," I said evenly. "That doesn't make you my manager." He said it soft, the way people do when they want to sound reasonable while they're cutting you. Yvette's lips twitched with approval. Terrence stood, reached for his phone on the counter, and slid it into his pocket. Then his gaze flicked toward the mudroom hallway. Quick, guilty. I followed his eyes. The bench, the hooks, his gym bag, perfectly placed because I placed it. Behind that gym bag, I knew what was hiding. A secret second phone. "Terrence," I said, keeping my tone light. "Do you have another?" His laugh snapped. "Here we go." He pulled a worn leather wallet from his pocket. With one swift motion, he opened it, removed my credit cards, every one of them, and flicked them in the air like trophies. "I've canceled all your cards," he announced. "Every single one." My chest tightened. I forced air in anyway. "Why would you do that?" I asked. "Because I'm tired." He paced a slow circle on the marble. "Tired of the attitude. Tired of the questions. Tired of you acting like you're entitled to an opinion on my decisions." Yvette settled deeper into the leather couch. "Hunger makes women behave fast," she said, flipping her magazine page with those perfect nails. Terrence turned the grin on me. "You're so broke now, you'll have to ask me even for tampon money." He said tampon like he wanted it to bruise. My fingers trembled. I curled them into a fist at my side so he wouldn't see. "Those cards are for groceries," I said, "for household expenses." You should have thought about that before you started running your mouth yesterday. He snapped the wallet shut. You questioned me. I asked if you'd had the numbers reviewed, I said. That's disrespect. His voice sharpened. You want to talk business like you're still something important. Something important. Yvette's laugh was soft and poisonous. A man needs peace in his house, she murmured. Not interrogation. I looked from her to him, mother and son, perfectly aligned, and felt a slow shift inside me. Not a break. A hinge remembering it was a hinge. Terrence slid my cards into his wallet again, slowly, forcing me to watch each one disappear. Maybe now you'll learn your place. My place. The morning sun poured through the floor to ceiling glass, turning the marble into a mirror. Our living room looked like a brochure. Neutral furniture, a sculpture Terrence insisted was an investment, fresh flowers that would die in 3 days and be replaced before anyone noticed. I had spent years making this house feel effortless, which meant the effort was always mine. I learned which throw pillows Yvette disliked, which candles Terrence said smelled cheap, which playlist made his clients linger, and which wine glass made him feel important. From the outside, we looked polished, safe, the kind of couple people assumed had it figured out. But inside that shine, there were scratches you only saw up close. The way Terrence corrected me in front of strangers, the way he laughed when I spoke too confidently, the way Yvette praised me only when I stayed quiet, standing there, watching him tuck my cards away like he was locking up my mouth. I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Not fear, not even anger. Calculation. The kind that comes when you realize a man isn't just being cruel. He's rehearsed it. He's comfortable in it. He's counting on you to fold. And the worst part wasn't the money. It was the grin he wore while taking it. It was the lesson he wanted me to learn today. He checked his watch. I have a meeting. Figure it out. His eyes flicked over me. Call one of those friends you used to have. Oh, wait, you don't have friends anymore. Yvette added. Not the right kind, anyway. Terrence's phone rang. He glanced at the screen and muttered, Bank. He answered with his business voice. Terrence Cole speaking. I stood near the kitchen island, hands resting lightly on the stone. Yvette paused by the foyer, purse in hand, ready for her daily shopping run, funded, of course, by cards that weren't mine. Terrence listened, his eyebrows pulled together. I'm sorry, what? He said. No, that can't be right, he added, voice tightening. There must be some mistake. Yvette's head snapped toward him. Terrence covered the phone and hissed at me. Did you try to use one of the card? Because they're canceled, Imani, completely. I didn't answer. He turned back. Yes, I'm listening. Silence stretched. Terrence's face drained of color in real time. I don't understand, he said. You're saying it's connected to this address? Yvette stepped closer, her heels suddenly loud. Terrence, what did they say? He hung up and stood perfectly still, staring at the black screen as if it had betrayed him. Yvette demanded, Well? Terrence swallowed. They said there's been a transaction, a large one, something flagged for verification. They want me to come in. How much? Yvette's voice went thin. They wouldn't say. Terrence's eyes narrowed at me. What did you do? It wasn't a question. It was an accusation, automatic as breathing. I walked to the window and looked out at the fountain, sparkling in the morning sun. From a distance, it looked like peace. Then I turned back and met his eyes. My husband having an affair isn't the only thing you should be worried about, I said, quiet. Both of them froze. Terrence's mouth tightened. What the hell are you talking about? Yvette's eyes flashed. Don't you dare accuse my son. I held up my hand. Not loud, just final. Sit down. Terrence stood there, caught between anger and whatever the bank had put in his bloodstream. Finally, he lowered himself onto the couch, slow, uncertain. Yvette sat beside him, rigid, her magazine forgotten. I stayed standing. If you've ever caught my husband cheating, you know the temperature in your bones when it happens. It's cold clarity. The moment you realize you've been living inside someone else's lie. Terrence forced calm into his voice. Imani, stop with the drama. Tell me what's going on. Drama, I repeated, soft. You just canceled my cards and told me to beg for basic needs. Your mother suggested starving me into obedience. And now the bank calls, and suddenly you want answers. Yvette hissed, "Ungrateful girl!" I looked at her. You've been in my home for 6 months, I said, eating what I cook, wearing silk through my kitchen like you own it. Then I looked back at Terrence. You want to know what's going on? Fine. My heart was pounding, but my voice came out steady. This is the moment where you realize I'm not as helpless as you trained yourself to believe. Terrence's eyes flicked toward the hallway again, toward his gym bag, toward the secret second phone. He swallowed. What did you do? He asked again, but now the words sounded smaller. I took a slow breath. I learned how to protect myself, I said, and I learned how to follow a trail. I leaned slightly forward. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to put that wallet on the table. You're going to stop pretending I'm the problem. His nostrils flared. Or what? Or I finish what I started, I said. Yvette's voice rose, brittle. You're bluffing. I smiled just once. I'm not. I let a beat pass, then delivered the sentence I'd been holding like a blade. Today, Terrence, your mistress exposed, right in front of your mother. Yvette made a sharp sound, half gasp, half insult. Terrence surged halfway up from the couch, then stopped. You don't know what you're talking about, he snapped. And if you're already imagining a revenge divorce story, I added, calm, where you paint me as bitter and unstable, remember something, Terrence. I tapped my temple once. Numbers keep receipts. The room went thin. I looked at them both. Don't go anywhere, I said softly, because the next thing you hear will be the moment you realize the lie wasn't small. I paused. If you're watching right now, give this video a like, and drop a comment telling me what time it is, where you are, and what city you're listening from. Then I turned my eyes back to Terrence. Now, I said, let's talk about that second phone. When I said, second phone, Terrence's face betrayed him for half a heartbeat. Panic first, then anger, then that polished blankness he used whenever he wanted to sound in control. You've been snooping, he snapped. I've been paying attention, I said. But this didn't start in our living room with him waving my cards like trophies. That was only the moment the curtain slipped far enough for everyone to see what was hiding behind it. So let me rewind, back before the marble floors, before the fountain, before the gated neighborhood outside Atlanta, where every driveway shines and every marriage looks perfect from the street. 3 years earlier, I was 26 in a one-bedroom apartment with thin walls and a noisy window unit. My plates didn't match. My peace did. I had my own key, my own name on the lease, and my own money in my own account. I was a forensic accountant then. Real evidence work, bank statements, vendor invoices, payroll records. I built stories out of what people tried to hide. My supervisor used to say, numbers don't lie, people do. I treated it like a rule. Terrence Cole noticed me because men like Terrence notice anything that might make them look smarter. We met at a charity event downtown. He had a tailored suit and an easy smile. I was there because my firm had donated services. He was there because his company had donated money. He approached me like he'd already decided I would fit into his life. You're Imani Carter, he said. And you are? Terrence Cole. He held out his hand. I've heard you're the one they send when someone's lying. I laughed. They send me when the math is lying, I corrected. He asked questions about my work, and he listened with a focused admiration that made me feel chosen. I didn't realize he was studying me the way people study something expensive before they buy it. For months, Terrence treated my intelligence like a prize. He introduced me as the woman who keeps millionaires honest. He smiled when I spoke. He acted proud, like my talent reflected well on him. When he proposed, it was at his family's lake house. Candlelight. A ring that glittered like a promise. I said yes, and then he added, casual as if he were ordering dessert. I don't want you working like that anymore. I want to take care of you. It sounded like love. I was tired. The kind of tired that makes rest feel holy. I told myself stepping back would be temporary, that marriage would be partnership, not surrender. 2 months before the wedding, he slid a prenuptial agreement across the table. "Standard," he said. "My father built the company." I read it. I negotiated. He smiled. "This is why I love you," he said. "You don't miss anything." The prenup was clear. What we brought in stayed separate. What we built together would be shared. I signed because it wasn't unfair. Because I believed in him. Because I thought protection was just paperwork. I didn't understand the paper wasn't the danger. Control was. The first year of marriage was good enough that I kept excusing the discomforts. Terrence asked my opinion on investments. We hosted dinners for his clients. I managed the home, the staff, the social calendar. Work that never had a paycheck but always had expectations. Then, admiration turned into preference. "You're calmer now that you're not working," he said, like calm was the point. When I mentioned going back to consulting, he smiled slow and charming. "Why would you put yourself through that again? You're home." Then Yvette Cole arrived. She came with 2 suitcases and a soft voice, saying she needed to recover from a minor procedure. "Just a few weeks," she promised, touching Terrence's arm like she owned his bones. Weeks became months. Yvette didn't behave like a guest. She rearranged my pantry. She corrected my cooking in that sweet, concerned tone that makes you sound unreasonable if you respond. She called our home Terrence's house, even when I was the one keeping it running. Her cruelty was quiet. "A man needs peace," she'd say, sipping tea. "Not a wife who interrogates him." Terrence began to listen. Yvette would comment that my friends were too loud, and Terrence would suggest we see them less. She'd mock the way I laughed, and he'd tell me to tone it down at dinners. Invitations stopped. Calls went unanswered. My world shrank without anyone announcing it was shrinking. When I tried to name it, Terrence treated me like I was being dramatic. "She didn't mean it like that," he'd say. Or worse, "Maybe she has a point." That's how control grows, not with one dramatic act, but with 1,000 small permissions. And somewhere in those months, the cheating began, or at least the evidence did. Terrence started keeping his phone face down. He took calls in the garage. He began working late in ways that didn't match his calendar. When he came home, he'd shower immediately, like he needed to wash off a day that didn't belong to me. One afternoon, while folding laundry, I found a receipt in his pocket. A downtown hotel bar. 2 cocktails, 1 dessert. Time-stamped on a night he told me he'd been stuck in traffic. My stomach went cold. I held the paper and felt the old part of me wake up, the part that reads what people leave behind. When I asked, casual, "How was your night?" he answered too fast. "Fine." When I asked, "Did you eat?" he smiled. "I grabbed something." He didn't mention dessert. A week later, I noticed a new scent on his shirt. Floral, expensive, unfamiliar. When I pointed it out, he shrugged. "Probably the office. You're imagining things." Then I saw it. The secret second phone. It was in his glove compartment when I was looking for a flashlight. Black, plain, no case. It lit up when I moved it, and a message preview flashed. "Miss you already." Terrence snatched it from my hand like it burned. "That's for work," he said. "Stop digging." After that, the phone disappeared, but I knew it existed. And once you know, the absence becomes loud. Over the next 2 months, the signs multiplied. Small charges in our shared bank app, easy to miss if you weren't trained to look. A rideshare at midnight, a dinner for 2 on a Tuesday. And Terrence's mood shifted. Sharper comments, colder silences, the irritated contempt men get when they're juggling lies and you keep existing in the wrong place. "You don't contribute," he said once, because he wanted it to land like a verdict. Yvette fed the contempt like it was her job. "A man needs admiration," she whispered, "not a woman who thinks she's equal." I didn't confront him with screaming and thrown dishes. I knew what happens when you accuse a controlling husband before you have proof he doesn't confess. He controls harder. He cuts off your access and calls it discipline. So I treated it like a case. I took screenshots. I wrote dates in a notebook and tucked it behind old tax folders. I watched his eyes change when a certain name flashed on his screen, saved as S. Grant, like he thought I couldn't connect dots. Simone Grant. That name surfaced like a fingerprint. A vendor email, a receipt, a meeting agenda. Always close, always explained away. One night, I walked past Terrence's office and saw light under the door. Yvette was inside with him, voices low. I stopped, careful. "She's getting suspicious," Yvette said. Terrence sighed. "She always does this," Yvette's tone hardened. "Then remind her who provides. Take away the comfort. A hungry wife behaves." I backed away without a sound, my hand shaking on the banister, my mind suddenly clear. In that moment, I understood something that changed everything. Terrence wasn't cheating in spite of his mother. He was cheating with her approval. She wasn't protecting our marriage. She was protecting his ego. A week later, I called Malcolm Rivers, my former supervisor, an older black man with calm eyes and a voice that never rushed. He taught me forensic accounting like it was a moral code. Follow the money, follow the timeline, follow the truth even when it hurts. "I need advice," I told him. "No sugarcoating." He said, "Tell me." So I did. I told him about the receipts, the late showers, the way my husband having an affair felt like living inside fog, about the secret second phone, about Yvette's whispers. Malcolm listened, then said quietly, "First, you're not crazy. Second, you're not powerless. Third, you need to stop letting them write the narrative." "What do I do?" I asked. "You gather your documents," he said. "Prenup, statements, IDs. You build your exit like a case file, and you move before he cuts off your oxygen." Then he added, "If you think you caught my husband cheating, don't make it a fight yet. Make it evidence, make it leverage, because when men like that get scared, they don't get honest, they get dangerous." So I prepared. Quietly, carefully. I didn't know exactly when Terrence would tighten the leash, but I knew he would. Control always escalates when it feels threatened, and that's how I survived the months leading to this morning, not by pretending nothing was wrong, but by planning like a woman who intends to keep her life. So when Terrence laughed about tampon money, and Yvette smiled like she'd finally won, I wasn't shocked. I was ready. Because when I stood there today, watching him cancel my cards, I wasn't just a wife. I was a woman who had already gathered the proof for months. Because part 2 isn't about how I fell for Terrence. It's about how I remembered who I was before him. And in part 3, I'll show you how the bank call wasn't an accident, how Simone Grant stopped being a shadow, and how a mistress exposed is never just a scandal. It's a chain reaction. This stopped being a heartbreak story the moment I started building my plan. It became a revenge divorce story I wrote with my own hands. Terrence stared at me as if the words "second phone" had knocked the air out of him. For one fragile second, his face went blank. No smile, no anger, no performance, just a man caught in the doorway of his own lie. "You've been snooping," he said at last, as if accusation could erase reality. "I've been paying attention," I replied. "Put the wallet on the table." Yvette's laugh was thin, the kind that tries to shame you into silence. "Girl, you don't give orders in this house." I didn't even glance at her. I kept my eyes on Terrence because the truth always shakes loose faster from the person who's afraid. Terrence's hand tightened at his side. His gaze flicked toward the hallway where his gym bag sat on the bench, still zipped, still innocent-looking, like it hadn't been hiding a secret second phone for months. Then he forced a scoff and stepped forward. He set the wallet down on the marble coffee table with a soft thud. Good. A sound that meant he'd decided I mattered enough to obey, even if only for a minute. I opened the wallet and slid out my credit cards one by one. I didn't grab them like a starving woman. I placed them on the table like evidence. "Reactivate them," I said calmly. "All of them. Today." Terrence's mouth curled. "Or what? You'll cry? You'll call your little friend from accounting?" I lifted my gaze. "Or I call my attorney and your bank, and I tell them my husband canceled my access to necessities while a suspicious transfer is being flagged." His confidence wobbled barely. Yvette leaned forward. You don't have an attorney? I smiled once, without warmth. You'd be surprised what a woman can arrange when she stops asking permission. The house was bright with morning sun. The marble glowed. The flowers on the console table looked like they'd been arranged by someone who wanted to prove love existed. Outside the glass, the fountain glittered as if nothing inside the walls could rot. Terrence's phone buzzed again. The screen lit up. And I caught the caller ID before he could tilt it away. Bank security. His face changed so fast it was almost comical. First irritation, then confusion, then fear. He answered with his polished voice. Terrence Cole. I watched him listen, watched the color drain from his cheeks in stages. I'm sorry, what? He said. Yvette stood, purse half on her shoulder, predatory instincts twitching. Terrence? He ignored her. No, I didn't authorize. He paused. You said the beneficiary name is... His eyes snapped to mine. Imani, did you? I said nothing. Silence is a mirror. Let him see himself. Terrence swallowed. Simone? He repeated, voice cracking. Simone Grant? Yvette's hand flew to her chest like she'd been slapped. Terrence went rigid, listening harder, breathing shallow. Finally, he said, I'll come in, right now. He ended the call and just stood there, staring at the phone as if it had betrayed him. Yvette's voice came out sharp. What did they say? Terrence's eyes stayed locked on me. What did you do? He demanded. I walked to the armchair near the window and sat down. The movement was slow on purpose. I wanted calm to fill the room the way smoke fills a closed space. Quiet, unstoppable. I didn't touch your accounts, I said. But your lies did. Terrence's jaw clenched. Don't play games. I'm not playing, I replied. You are. And the bank is done being your audience. Yvette stepped forward, face twisted. Simone is nobody, she snapped, then stopped, realizing she'd admitted she knew the name. My eyes slid to her. You know her. Yvette's mouth tightened into a thin line. She didn't deny it. Denial would have been too messy. Terrence looked between us, confusion turning to suspicion. Mom. Yvette's eyes flashed. I was protecting you. Protecting him. Always her favorite excuse. Terrence turned back to me, voice rough. Tell me what you know. I nodded once. Fine, sit. He didn't. So I spoke anyway. I know you have a secret second phone, I said. I know you've been meeting Simone Grant on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I know you've been lying about where you go after work. And I know your bank just said her name in a sentence that has the word beneficiary in it. Terrence's nostrils flared. You don't have proof. That's what men say right before they see it, I replied. I reached behind the row of design magazines on the bookshelf and pulled out a slim folder. Nothing dramatic, just paper, the kind that ruins people quietly. Terrence's eyes fixed on it. What is that? My case file, I said. The one I built after I caught my husband cheating and realized I might need to leave. Yvette hissed. Disgusting! I opened the folder and laid 3 pages on the coffee table, sliding them toward Terrence. The first was a phone bill summary. 2 lines. His name, line 1 and line 2. Terrence's face tightened. That's for work? Then why did you deny it? I asked. He didn't answer. The second was a timeline. Not every detail, not every receipt, just enough to show a pattern. Ride shares, parking fees, a downtown hotel bar, dinners for 2. Repeating days, repeating locations. Terrence stared at it like it was written in another language. You tracked me. I noticed you, I corrected. There's a difference. The third was an email header printout, no private content, just the sender and subject line. From Simone Grant. Subject, about last night. Terrence's hands began to shake. Yvette's voice cracked. How did you get that? He forwarded it to his work email, I said, and he left his work email logged in on the home computer he insisted I keep updated. Yvette spat. Invasion. I looked at her. Consequence. Terrence's voice went low, defensive. It wasn't. It's not like that. It's not like that. The prayer of guilty men. I kept my tone level. Then tell me what it's like, I said. Tell me what you call it when you sneak around with another woman and hide a second phone line from your wife. Terrence's eyes flashed, then dulled. His pride tried to stand up. Fear shoved it back down. Yvette crossed her arms like armor. Even if he did something, she snapped, that doesn't give you the right to attack his business. Terrence's eyes kept jumping from the pages to my face, like he was searching for the moment I became a person he didn't recognize. You've been doing this for how long? He asked, voice brittle. I didn't answer right away, because the truth wasn't a number. It was a slow erosion, a year of tiny cuts that never bled enough to look like an emergency. It started the night you came home smelling like someone else's perfume, I said quietly. Terrence flinched. Yvette's lips pressed together, as if perfume was a trivial detail compared to the word business. That was months ago, Terrence muttered. And months is plenty of time for a lie to grow teeth, I replied. He stared at me. So you think I'm… what? A villain? I think you're a man who got used to living without consequences, I said. And you married a woman who can read consequences before they arrive. Yvette scoffed. She thinks she's so smart. I turned into my head slightly. Letting my eyes and land on her without giving her the full attention she craved. I don't think, I said. I know. I used to do this for clients. Terrence's shoulders tensed. You quit. I paused, I corrected, because you promised peace, because you promised partnership, because you said you'd take care of me. The phrase hung between us, sour now. Terrence's gaze dropped to the cards again, like he couldn't bear the reminder of what he'd done with that promise. I continued. When Yvette moved in, the house changed. You changed faster. You stopped asking my opinion. You started correcting me the way bosses correct employees. Yvette snapped. He's the provider. And that's why you thought I would obey, I said. Because you treated money like a leash. Terrence's throat bobbed. He tried to speak, then didn't. I leaned back in the chair, letting the story unwind, slow enough to keep them listening. 2 months ago, I said, I found a receipt in your pants pocket, downtown hotel bar, 2 cocktails and a dessert. The timestamp was on a night you told me you were stuck in traffic. Terrence's eyes flickered, guilt trying to hide behind annoyance. You told me I was imagining things, I continued. So I stopped asking questions that gave you room to lie. I started looking for answers that didn't need your permission. Yvette's voice sharpened. So you stalked him? I verified, I replied. There's a difference. I told them about the small charges in our shared banking app, a rideshare that didn't match his commute, a restaurant bill that didn't match his appetite, a parking garage fee at a time he said he was home. Nothing dramatic, just a pattern, the kind that feels invisible until you circle it in ink. And then, I said, I saw the phone. Terrence's jaw tightened. It's not… Don't, I cut in. Don't rewrite it. A secret second phone is not normal. It's not work. It's not privacy. It's a door you only build when you plan to walk through it without being seen. Terrence swallowed hard. His eyes moved to the hallway again, that reflex he didn't even realize he had. I let the silence stretch until it felt like pressure. Do you want to know when I stopped hoping and started preparing? I asked him. He didn't answer, but his eyes asked anyway. It was the night I heard your mother in your office, I said. Her voice low, yours tired. And she said, if she's getting suspicious, remind her who provides. Take away comfort. A hungry wife behaves. Yvette's face flashed, but she didn't deny it. Denial would have required a conscience. Terrence's eyes widened. You heard that? I heard enough, I replied. Enough to know this wasn't just an affair. It was a strategy. Terrence's lips parted, then closed. He looked like he wanted to argue and couldn't find a clean lie. That night, I continued, I called Malcolm Rivers. Terrence blinked. The guy from your old job. The man who taught me how to read money like language, I said. He didn't ask me why I stayed. He didn't tell me I should have known. He only asked one thing. Do you want to be right, or do you want to be safe? Terrence's throat tightened. What did you say? I said safe, I answered, because being right is useless if you can't afford to leave. Yvette hissed. You're acting like you're a prisoner. I looked at her. You told me hunger makes women behave, I said. What do you call that if not a prison? Yvette's mouth tightened. Her eyes slid away. I went on. Malcolm told me to stop confronting and start collecting. He said, keep a copy of everything, keep your emotions off the paper, and keep your plans off your tongue. Terrence's eyes were fixed on me now, wide with a kind of delayed recognition. So all this time, you were preparing, I said, for the day you decided to punish me. Terrence's shoulders slumped. I didn't plan to punish you. You did it anyway, I replied. And that's the difference between someone who loves you and someone who owns you. The room felt colder. Even the sunlight looked sharp. I told them about the afternoon I sat in a coffee shop near his office, not even watching like a movie spy, just watching like a woman who needed one honest moment. I described the doors opening and closing, the stream of bodies, the rhythm of city life, and then Terrence stepping out at 6:42 with a woman in a cream coat, Simone, laughing like she'd already won. Terrence's eyes squeezed shut briefly, like he was trying to erase the picture. I saw you get into a car that wasn't yours, I said, because you didn't want your own license plate near her. Yvette's brows pinched. That detail bothered her more than the betrayal. She cared about optics the way priests care about sin. And that's when I knew, I said softly. I'd caught my husband cheating, and he was organized about it. Terrence's voice came out strained. It wasn't organized. It was practiced, I corrected, and practice creates access. I tapped the folder. So I did 3 things. Terrence stared. What? 1, I said. I reopened my professional network, quietly. I asked Malcolm for referrals. I updated my licenses. I reminded myself I still had a name outside this house. Terrence flinched as if the word outside was a threat. 2, I continued. I created financial separation where the prenup allowed it. I opened an account in my name. I redirected my personal funds. I documented every household expense I covered, every transfer, every irregularity. Yvette's voice snapped. You moved money? I moved mine, I said. You can call it whatever you want. I call it oxygen. And 3, I said, letting my voice drop. I set a trap. Terrence's eyes narrowed. A trap? I nodded. Not to hurt you, to reveal you. I didn't describe anything illegal. I didn't need to. The trap wasn't hacking, it was attention. I requested account alerts, I explained. Extra verification on unusual activity. The same security measures banks recommend, but people ignore when they believe their lives are untouchable. Terrence's face tightened with understanding. And when you canceled my cards this morning, I added, I knew you were escalating, so I waited. Because banks call when something is off, and lies always make something off. Terrence swallowed hard. You planned that call. I prepared for it, I corrected. There's a difference. I didn't make your bank say Simone's name. Simone did that all by herself. Yvette's voice rose, sharp. You're enjoying humiliating him. I looked at her steadily. I'm refusing to be humiliated, I replied. That's what you can't stand. Terrence was breathing faster now. So you're saying Simone tried to... I'm saying, I replied, that the woman you risked your marriage for might be the woman about to risk your business. Terrence's hands trembled. He tried to hide it by clasping them together. Yvette's eyes darted to Terrence. Tell her she's wrong. Terrence didn't speak. Terrence, I said softly, how did you meet Simone? He swallowed. Through work. Who introduced you? I asked. His eyes flicked to his mother for half a second. Yvette's jaw tightened. I didn't need a confession. That glance was one. You did, I said to Yvette. Yvette snapped. I did not. You did, I repeated, still calm. Because you needed someone who would admire him without challenging him. Someone who would make him feel big while you made me feel small. Terrence's face twisted. Mom! Yvette's voice turned icy. I introduced him to a consultant, that's all. A consultant you knew would become a temptation, I said, because you don't just want a successful son. You want a controllable son, and wives who ask questions are inconvenient. Yvette's eyes flared, pure hatred. You think you know me? I've lived with you, I said. That's enough. Terrence pushed to his feet, sudden, restless. Stop talking about my mother. This is between me and you. No, I said, it's between me, you, and the choices you made with her, cheering you on. He paced a step, then stopped, trapped by the small office of our living room. I need you to understand something, I said, voice low. This isn't a movie. There's no dramatic confession that fixes it. There's only truth and what we do after it. Terrence's eyes were wet now, not with tears that clean you, but with fear that clings. He whispered, It wasn't supposed to matter. I nodded. That's what every cheater thinks, and that's why every cheater destroys more than they intended. Yvette scoffed, but her voice trembled. He's a man. Men slip. I turned to her. Men choose, I said, and women like you excuse them until the choice becomes a habit. Terrence's phone buzzed in his hand. He'd been holding it since the bank call, like he didn't trust it on a table. He glanced down and stiffened. What? I asked. He locked the screen too fast. Read it, I said softly. Terrence's eyes flashed. No. Then it matters, I replied. If it's nothing, it's easy. Yvette leaned forward, voice eager. Read it! Terrence stared at us like we were suddenly the ones cornering him. Then, with shaking fingers, he unlocked the phone and turned it so we could see. The message preview was short. You promised me today. Don't back out. Terrence's face went gray. Yvette's mouth fell open. I exhaled slowly. Today, I repeated. So your investor meeting was a lie. Terrence swallowed. She wanted to see me. And you were going to go, I said, not asking, stating. He didn't deny it. I looked at him steadily. How long, Terrence? His throat worked. A few months. And your mother knew, I added, glancing at Yvette. Yvette snapped. I didn't know. Up! Terrence barked suddenly, and the room froze again. He turned to her, eyes wild. Stop lying. Yvette's face hardened. Terrence! He looked back at me, voice rough. Yes, he said. I've been seeing her. The confession sat in the air like smoke. I felt pain, sharp and clean, but underneath it was something else. Relief. Not because he cheated, because the fog finally had a shape, and shapes can be dealt with. Terrence's voice cracked. Imani, Don't, I said gently. Not yet. Not with excuses. His eyes filled, and for the first time, his arrogance looked like a mask slipping. I added, Now you tell me the part the bank call started, because this isn't just about betrayal. This is about risk. Terrence's hands shook. I didn't authorize anything, I swear. I believe you, I said, and watched him jolt at that. Because you look shocked, and because men like you don't expect consequences from women like her. Yvette hissed, Watch your mouth! I ignored her. Terrence, I said, we go to the bank. Now. You don't meet Simone alone, and you don't try to handle this with charm. Terrence nodded, broken. Okay. I stood, gathered my folder, and picked up my cards. Reactivate everything stays, I said. We fix the bleeding first. Terrence nodded again, then headed for the door with the posture of a man who suddenly felt the weight of his own mistakes. Yvette's voice followed him, bitter. Don't let her control you. Terrence didn't look back. Too late, he muttered. I already let you. Terrence said, The bank call isn't about... It's about Simone, I said softly. Because she's not just your affair. She's attached to your accounts. Terrence stiffened. I didn't give her access. Maybe you didn't mean to, I replied. But you gave her proximity. You gave her a place in your life where she could reach you, and banks don't have feelings. They have protocols. Terrence stared at the folder, then at the front door like he might run through it. I have a meeting. You have a fraud flag, I corrected. That's your meeting. Yvette's voice turned urgent. Terrence, go handle it. Don't let her distract you. He turned to his mother, irritation flashing. Stop talking. The room froze. Terrence had never snapped at her like that in front of me. Yvette's eyes widened, then narrowed. Excuse me? Terrence swallowed, and his courage softened into panic again. Mom, please! She looked at him as if she'd just discovered a crack in the throne. This girl is poisoning you. Terrence didn't argue. He grabbed his keys, his phone, and headed toward the foyer. Wait, I said. He stopped. I stood and picked up my stacked cards. You're not leaving with my access cut off, I said. Reactivate them now. Terrence's jaw clenched. Imani, not now. Now, I repeated, my voice quiet but iron. Because if you can cancel them with a smile, you can reactivate them with the same hands. He stared at me for a long beat, then pulled out his phone and opened the bank app with shaking fingers. He tapped, swore under his breath, then nodded once. Done, he said, voice flat. I didn't thank him. You don't thank someone for returning what they stole. I'm coming with you, I said. Yvette stepped forward. Absolutely not. I turned to her. You're staying here, her eyes flared. I am his mother. And I am his wife, I said. Or I was. We'll see. Terrence looked between us, exhausted. Finally, he said to Yvette, Mom, stay. Yvette's face twisted with pure resentment. Fine, go. Let her destroy you. Terrence didn't answer. He walked out. We drove separately, like strangers, to the First National Branch in Buckhead. Glass and polished wood, the kind of place designed to make you feel safe while it quietly measures your worth. The lobby smelled like citrus and money. A receptionist looked up. Mr. Cole? Mr. Halpern is expecting you. Terrence nodded, shoulders tight. I followed, half a step behind, my folder tucked under my arm like a shield. Halpern was a compact man in a navy suit with eyes that never softened. He shook Terrence's hand, then looked at me. And you are? Imani Cole, I said. The last name tasted strange. His wife. Halpern's smile turned careful. Please, have a seat. We sat in a small office with frosted glass walls. The world outside was blurred and normal, which made the inside feel like a confession booth. Halpern opened a file. Mr. Cole, we contacted you about a pending beneficiary verification and an expedited transfer request. It was flagged due to unusual activity and incomplete verification. Terrence's voice cracked. I didn't request a transfer, Halpern nodded. That's why we flagged it. He slid a document across the desk. It was a beneficiary designation form. Terrence's name, Terrence's signature, and under the beneficiary field, Simone Grant. Terrence made a sound like his lungs forgot what to do. That's not, he whispered. I didn't. Halpern's tone stayed even. This form was submitted through your portal with your credentials. Terrence stared at his signature as if it belonged to a ghost. Someone used my login. Halpern's eyes sharpened slightly. It is possible. That is what our fraud review will determine. We can document device access and verification failures, but we need your written statement that you did not authorize this request. Terrence nodded, face pale. Yes. Yes. Halpern slid another page across. The transfer request. Amount not devastating, but deliberate. Recipient details tied back to an account associated with Simone Grant. Mistress exposed, not by gossip, not by a lipstick mark, but by a bank document that didn't care who cried. Terrence's hands shook as he signed the statement. I watched the pen move, watched him write himself into a new story. Not the charming man with a secret, but the husband having an affair who'd handed his mistress enough access to threaten him. Halpern said, Mr. Cole, if there is any suggestion of coercion, threats, or demands for money in exchange for silence that may constitute extortion. We advise you to consult legal counsel and file a report if necessary. Terrence swallowed. She said she has photos. Halpern nodded once. Then do not meet her alone. Do not negotiate privately. I felt my spine straighten. That was exactly what Malcolm had said. Halpern stepped out briefly so Terrence could change passwords and enable stronger security. In the silence, Terrence leaned forward, elbows on knees, and looked at me like a man drowning. I never meant for this, he whispered. I stared at the frosted glass, watching shadows move. It happened, I said, because you thought you could divide your life into hidden rooms, but doors don't stay closed when you keep walking through them. Terrence's eyes were red-rimmed. I was stupid! You were entitled, I corrected. He flinched, then nodded, the way people nod when they're too tired to argue with the truth. He whispered, Are you leaving? I looked at him. I don't know, I said honestly, but I know I'm not begging anymore. Not for money, not for honesty, not for respect. His voice broke. I'm sorry. I believe you're sorry, I said. I don't know if you're changed. Halpern returned and ended the meeting with crisp instructions. Fraud case opened, transfer frozen, documentation required. Counsel recommended. We walked out into the bright lobby. People waited politely. A man laughed quietly with a teller. A woman signed papers. No one knew what had cracked open behind frosted glass. Outside, the sunlight felt too cheerful. Terrence stood by his car, shoulders slumped. She's going to call, he said. Let her, I replied. He stared at me, helpless. What if she sends the photos to my investors? I held his gaze. Then she does, I said. The truth is already true. A photo doesn't create it, it only reveals it. Terrence's face crumpled. My phone vibrated as I reached for my door handle. Unknown number. I answered without fear. Hello? A woman's voice slid through, smooth and sharp underneath. Imani, she said, like we were already acquainted. We need to talk. Across the parking lot, Terrence froze, watching me. I said, Simone. She laughed softly. So he told you? No, I replied. The bank did. Her laugh faltered. Listen, Terrence made promises. He's good at promises, I said. And I'm good at collecting, she replied. There it was. The chill. The edge that told me this wasn't just romance gone wrong. This was leverage. I kept my voice calm. If you contact his bank again, there's a fraud case with your name on it, I said. If you threaten money for silence, that becomes extortion. Simone's breathing shifted, then she recovered. You think paperwork scares me? No, I said. But consequences might. She went quiet for a beat, then said, Meet me? Noon, downtown. I want to look you in the eye. Every instinct in me said no. Malcolm's message was practically carved into my mind. No private meeting, so I said, No. Simone's voice sharpened. Then I send everything. I replied, Then you do. Silence. She hadn't expected a wife who wouldn't bargain. I continued, You're not holding my life hostage. You're holding his. And if you try to make this a revenge divorce story where I'm desperate and you're powerful, you picked the wrong woman. Simone's voice turned low, angry. Don't get brave with me. I'm not brave, I said. I'm done. Then I ended the call. Terrence's phone started ringing immediately. Her number, no doubt. He fumbled it like his hands no longer trusted him. I got into my car and closed the door. My reflection in the windshield looked calm, but my heart was pounding like it wanted out. The secret second phone. The fraud flag. The mistress exposed. Terrence had brought a stranger into our marriage and assumed the fallout would be private, manageable, contained. But fallout doesn't ask permission. In my rearview mirror, Terrence stood alone, phone pressed to his ear, listening to the woman who thought she owned him. I didn't feel victorious. I felt clear. Clarity doesn't comfort. It sharpens, and it cuts through pretty excuses. As I started the engine, my phone buzzed with a text from Malcolm Rivers. Do not meet her. Let counsel handle. Keep your mind cold. I stared at the message, then at the bright road ahead. This day wasn't the end of anything. It was the moment the lie became visible. And the next part would be the moment it became unavoidable. I drove home like the city had no idea what it had just witnessed. Traffic moved. Lights changed. People sipped coffee at stop signs, still believing their lives were stable because they hadn't looked too closely. My hands stayed steady on the wheel, but my chest felt hollow, like someone had scooped the soft parts out and left the structure standing. Terrence called twice. I let it ring. When the third call came, I answered on speaker. Yes. His voice was raw. Where are you? Going home, I said, alone. Imani, please. Please is what you say when you've already spent your authority, I replied. You don't get to buy back dignity with panic. He exhaled, shaky. She's not stable. She's threatening me. You invited her into the house, I said. Not with a key, with access. I didn't give her. You gave her your passwords, I cut in, calm. Or you gave her your phone long enough to learn them. Either way, it's the same result. A long silence, then a whisper. I'm sorry. I didn't answer. Sorry is a feeling. I needed action. By the time I pulled into our neighborhood, the fountain at the entrance was sparkling, as if water could wash away what men do. Inside the house, the air was cold and perfumed. Yvette had lit one of my candles, the expensive one she claimed she hated, and the sweet scent crawled into my throat. She was in the living room, sitting in the same spot as earlier, magazine open like a shield. She didn't look up when I entered. Terrence wasn't home yet. I set my folder on the coffee table and walked into the kitchen. I poured myself water. I drank it slowly, making my body understand that it was not in danger, not in a sprint, not in a collapse. Behind me, Yvette finally spoke. He called me. He said you embarrassed him. I turned, glass in hand. The bank embarrassed him, I said. I just stopped pretending. Yvette's eyes narrowed. You're enjoying this. I'm surviving it, I replied. There's a difference. She stood, smoothing the front of her dress with that practiced elegance. Terrence made a mistake. A mistake is ordering the wrong thing off a menu, I said. A mistake is missing an exit. A husband having an affair is a choice. Her mouth tightened. Men stray. Women endure. That's what you taught him, I said softly. And now you're watching what it creates. Yvette stepped closer. You think you caught my husband cheating, and now you're some kind of hero. I think I caught my husband cheating and realized I can't afford to be naive, I said. Hero isn't the word. Awake is. The front door opened. Terrence walked in with shoulders hunched, tie loosened, eyes bloodshot. The confidence he wore like armor had been dented at the bank, and now it hung off him like heavy fabric. He saw his mother and me facing each other and froze. Stop, he said immediately. Both of you. Yvette turned her smirk on him. She's trying to destroy you. Terrence didn't look at her. He looked at me. Simone called me again. She wants money. I nodded once. Of course she does. He swallowed. She says if I don't pay, she'll send messages to my investors, to the board. She says she has videos. Yvette's face twisted. That snake. Terrence flinched, then whispered, Mom, you introduced her. Yvette's eyes flashed. I introduced a consultant. You're the one who... I'm the one who listened to you, Terrence snapped, and the room went still. You kept saying I needed someone who admired me, someone who didn't question me, someone who made me feel like a king in my own house. His voice cracked on king. Yvette's expression flickered, just for a moment, fear of being blamed. Then she recovered and hardened. I wanted what was best for you. Terrence laughed once, bitter. You wanted what was best for your reputation. I stepped forward, calm as a blade. Sit down, I told them. Terrence sat on the couch without argument. Yvette hesitated, then perched on the edge like she might spring up and run. I opened my folder and pulled out a single sheet of paper. The consultation agreement with my attorney, Already signed. Terrence stared. You already? Yes, I said. Because when you canceled my cards and laughed about tampons, I understood you'd do anything to keep control. And when I understood that, I stopped waiting for you to become decent. Yvette scoffed. She's bluffing. She can't afford. I slid the paper toward her. Read the letterhead, I said. Yvette's eyes moved over it, and her lips parted slightly. She recognized the name. People like Yvette always know which lawyers matter. Terrence rubbed his face with both hands. Imani, I don't want a divorce. I didn't say I filed, I replied. I said I prepared. He looked up, eyes wet. Why? Because I refuse to be a woman in her 40s telling other women, I should have left when I first saw the signs, I said. I refuse to build a life that only works if you behave. Terrence swallowed hard. I can fix this. Not with promises, I said. With proof. Yvette leaned forward, voice sharp. He's your husband. You don't threaten him with lawyers. I turned my head toward her. You threatened me with hunger, I said. So yes, I use lawyers. Her face went pale with rage. Terrence's phone buzzed again. He looked down and cursed under his breath. It's her. Answer, I said. He stared at me. What? Answer, I repeated. On speaker. Yvette jerked. No! Terrence's eyes darted between us. His pride wanted privacy. His fear wanted protection. I waited. Finally, he tapped the screen. Simone! Her voice flowed through the room like warm poison. Terrence, baby, don't hang up. We need to be adults. Terrence swallowed. I'm with my wife. A pause. Then a soft laugh. Oh, so the judge is present. My stomach turned, but my voice stayed steady. Hello, Simone, I said. Silence, then. Imani, I didn't expect you to be so involved. I'm married to him, I said. That tends to involve me. Simone's voice sharpened slightly. Listen, I'm not trying to hurt you. Terrence and I have history. History doesn't entitle you to his money, I replied, or his accounts. Simone sighed theatrically. I'm not asking for charity. I'm asking for what he promised. He said he'd take care of me. Terrence's throat tightened. I didn't promise. You did, Simone cut in, sweet as syrup. You said you'd help me get established. You said I wouldn't be left stranded when you went back to your perfect life. My eyes moved to Terrence. He looked away. There it was. Not just cheating, planning. I said, You used his portal to submit a beneficiary form. Simone laughed once, amused. I don't know what you're talking about. The bank does, I replied. There's an open fraud case. The line went quiet, then Simone's tone shifted, colder. Fine. You want the truth? Terrence signed what I put in front of him. Men sign things when they're distracted. Terrence flinched like she'd slapped him through the phone. Simone continued. I'm giving him one chance. Transfer the money, or I send everything. Yvette made a sound of outrage. I leaned forward slightly. Simone, I said, if you demand money in exchange for silence, that's extortion. If you forge documents, that's fraud. If you access accounts without authorization, that's a crime. You will not be paid. You will be reported. Simone's laugh was sharp now. You think you can scare me with legal words? I think you should be scared of legal consequences, I replied. And I think you should stop calling this house. Consider this your warning. Simone's voice turned venomous. You're really going to stand there and act like the victim? Your husband came to me. He wanted me. He said you were boring. He said you were grateful for crumbs. Terrence's face crumpled. I felt pain flare, but it didn't own me. Then he's going to explain that in court if necessary, I said. Goodbye. I ended the call. The room hummed with silence afterward. Even Yvette couldn't find a sound for a second. Terrence stared at the floor like it might open and take him. Finally, he whispered, I didn't think she would do this. You didn't think she would matter, I corrected. That's the arrogance. Yvette found her voice, frantic. Terrence, file a restraining order. Pay her to disappear. No, I said. We don't pay criminals. We document them. Terrence looked at me, eyes lost. What do you want from me? The question was almost childlike, which was frightening in its own way. I want my life back, I said. Not the house, not the fountain, my life. He nodded, tears gathering. Tell me what to do. I took a slow breath. First, I said, you change every password in front of me, every account, every portal, 2-factor authentication on everything. He nodded, already reaching for his phone. Second, I continued, you send Simone one text, written by your attorney, stating you will not meet, you will not pay, and all communication goes through counsel. Yvette sputtered. You can't control... I lifted a finger. Third, I said, looking straight at Yvette. You pack. Yvette froze. Excuse me? You're moving out? I said, simple. Today. Terrence's head snapped up. Imani. No, I said gently. This is not negotiable. Your mother didn't just witness your cheating. She shaped it. She fed it. She weaponized my dependence. She suggested hunger. She does not stay in my home. Yvette's face contorted. Your home! Terrence pays, and I manage, I replied. And the prenup says this house is marital property, which means if we divorce, your son gets a fight he doesn't want. So sit down and listen. Yvette's hands shook with rage. You can't throw me out. I can, I said. Because you're a guest, and your welcome is over. Terrence's voice broke. Mom, please, just give us space. Yvette stared at him, betrayed. After everything I did for you? Terrence swallowed. You did it for you. That cracked her mask. She turned on me, eyes bright with hate. You're doing this because you're jealous, because you can't compete with a woman like Simone. I smiled, cold. No, I said. I'm doing this because I'm done living inside your son's appetite. Yvette took a step forward, then stopped when she saw my phone in my hand. What is that? She snapped. A recording, I lied smoothly. I hadn't recorded. I didn't need to. The truth was already loud. Yvette's eyes widened. She backed up half a step. Terrence stared at me, startled. He didn't question it. He was too busy drowning. I said, pack a suitcase. I'm arranging accommodation for you. 3 months. Comfortable. Paid. After that, you figure it out. Yvette's voice went shrill. You're banishing me. I'm protecting myself, I replied. The same way you taught Terrence to protect his pride. Terrence rubbed his face, voice cracking. Imani, please, don't do this. I looked at him, and for the first time, I saw the boy under the man, the boy who wanted his mother's approval more than he wanted truth. I felt pity, and pity made me even more determined. Terrence, I said quietly, this is the consequence of your choices. This is what happens when you build your life on secrets. They don't stay secret. They turn into knives. He nodded, small. What about us? I paused. That depends, I said. Counseling. Real counseling. With someone who understands control, infidelity, and financial abuse. You stop treating my questions like disrespect. You stop treating money like leverage, and you tell the truth even when it makes you look ugly. His breath shook. I will. Words, I said gently. Action. Yvette stood rigid, trembling, then spat. You'll regret this. I met her gaze. Maybe, I said, but I won't regret choosing myself. For once, the silence in the house felt like mine. Terrence's shoulders sagged, and the room felt like it had finally landed on the ground after months of floating in lies. Everything made sense now, the late nights, the sudden contempt, the way Yvette smiled when I shrank. It had all been a system, a story they wrote where I played the silent wife, and Terrence played the admired man, and Yvette played the queen behind the throne. I wasn't in their story anymore. I was writing my own. The movers arrived at 3 p.m. on the dot, like Consequence always does when you finally schedule it. Two men in navy shirts and work boots stepped into my foyer with clipboards, polite eyes, professional distance. They didn't ask questions. They never do. They've seen enough marriages to understand that boxes don't explain themselves. Yvette stood at the bottom of the stairs with her arms crossed, lips tight, pretending rage was dignity. Her suitcases were lined up neatly by the door. Designer luggage, hard shells, perfect wheels, like she'd packed for vacation instead of eviction. Terrence hovered in the hallway, pale and hollowed out. He hadn't changed his clothes since the bank. His tie was loose, his shirt wrinkled, his hands restless, like he didn't know where to put them now that control had slipped. Yvette glared at him. "You're going to let her do this." Terrence swallowed. "Mom, please." "Please," Yvette mocked. "Is that what you are now? A man who begs?" I stepped forward and opened the front door wide. The afternoon sun poured in, bright and unforgiving. "The car is waiting," I said, calm. "Your room at the extended stay is already paid, 3 months." Yvette's laugh cracked. "You think you're generous." "I think I'm done," I replied. One mover gently lifted her largest suitcase. Yvette flinched like the touch offended her. "Be careful," she snapped. He nodded, unbothered. They carried her things out in steady trips. Boxes of shoes, a garment bag, her framed photos, the small, antique mirror she'd insisted on hanging in her guest room. Each item leaving felt like a quiet exhale in my chest. Yvette turned to me one last time, voice sharp enough to cut. "He'll come to his senses. He'll realize what you are." I held her gaze. "He already knows what I am," I said. "A woman who stopped being afraid." Her eyes flashed. "You're nothing without him." I smiled slightly. "You're about to learn how wrong that is." Yvette stormed out without another word, heels striking the stone walkway like punctuation. The movers shut the truck door. A moment later, her car followed, and then the driveway was empty. The silence that settled into the house afterward was profound, like the building itself had been holding its breath. Terrence remained in the hallway, staring at the closed door. He looked smaller without his mother's shadow behind him, less certain, less loud. "She's gone," I said. He nodded slowly. "I heard." We stood there in the quiet, the kind that forces people to tell the truth or suffocate under it. Terrence finally spoke, voice rough. "Did I really become that person? The one who laughed about cutting you off?" I didn't soften for him. Softness had fed this too long. "Yes," I said simply. "You did." He flinched, as if he wanted denial to be a door, but there wasn't one anymore. "When did it start?" he whispered. "When did I stop seeing you?" I thought about it, not to punish him, but because naming things is how you keep them from returning. "It started when you decided your pride was more important than my safety," I said. "When you let your mother convince you that a wife who asks questions is disrespectful. You started searching for reasons to be annoyed with me, so you wouldn't have to feel guilty about what you were doing." Terrence's throat worked. "I didn't plan to cheat." I looked at him. "Cheating isn't a lightning strike," I said. "It's a road. You take it one turn at a time, until you can't pretend you didn't choose it." He sank onto the edge of the cow, head in his hands. "Simone, she made me feel admired." There it was. The confession beneath the confession. "You wanted admiration without accountability," I said, "and you wanted it so badly you were willing to risk everything else." Terrence's voice broke. "I'm sorry, Imani." "I know you are," I said. "I can see it. But I'm not interested in regret. I'm interested in change." He looked up, eyes glassy. "Tell me what to do." I took a slow breath. "We start with truth," I said. "You tell me everything. When it started, what you promised, what you gave her, all of it." Terrence nodded quickly, desperate. "Okay." "And then," I continued, "you go to counseling, not later, not when it's convenient, this week, with someone who understands infidelity and control. Because what you did wasn't just an affair, it was a power dynamic. You thought you could punish me financially and still keep me. Terrence wiped his face with his sleeve. I hate that I did that. Hate isn't enough, I said. You have to undo it. He swallowed. I will. I watched him for a long moment. I wanted to believe him. I wanted the man I married, the one who asked me questions, who laughed with me, who said my mind was beautiful, to still exist somewhere under the wreckage. But wanting doesn't protect you. So I said, here's how it works. I'm not making a decision today about divorce. I'm making a decision about my boundaries. He nodded, barely breathing. My accounts remain mine, I said. Our shared account stays shared with equal access. No more allowance, no more control. You don't get to decide what I can buy, ever again. Terrence nodded. Agreed. I go back to work, I added. Immediately, consulting at least. I'm not sitting in this house waiting for your mood. I'm not shrinking to make you feel tall. His eyes squeezed shut. Okay. And Simone, I said, voice firm. All contact goes through counsel. You do not meet her. You do not explain. You do not try to charm your way out. You let the legal process handle it. Terrence nodded again. Yes? I reached into my folder and pulled out a business card. Dr. Patrice Reeves. Terrence stared at it. I already called, I said. She has an opening tomorrow afternoon. His head snapped up. You called already? I had to, I replied, because the old version of me would have waited for you to decide if I was worth fixing things for. I'm not her anymore, Terrence's breath shuddered. I don't deserve you. I didn't argue. Instead, I said, maybe you don't, but you might still earn a chance to be better. And if you can't, then I leave, he nodded, the smallest movement, like a man agreeing to gravity. That night, we didn't make up. There was no dramatic embrace that turned pain into forgiveness. We ate dinner quietly. He slept in the guest room. I lay in our bed alone and listened to the honest noises of the house, the ice maker clicking, the vent exhaling, the security panel blinking. Only this time, the heartbeat felt like mine. The next morning, I met Malcolm Rivers for coffee. He listened while I told him what happened. The bank, Simone's attempt, Yvette's removal, Terrence's confession. Malcolm didn't smile. He didn't frown. He just nodded like a man who understood that survival is rarely cinematic. You did well, he said finally. You stayed cold when you needed to. You stayed human when it mattered. I don't feel strong, I admitted. You don't have to feel it, he said. You just have to act like it. I stared into my coffee. What if he changes for a month and then goes back? Malcolm's eyes held mine. Then you leave, he said. That's the point of boundaries. They're not threats. They're promises to yourself. That afternoon, Terrence and I sat in Dr. Reeves's office, both of us stiff with nerves. She was in her 50s, calm, no nonsense, the kind of woman whose kindness doesn't come with excuses. She looked at Terrence, then at me. Why are you here? She asked. Terrence swallowed hard. Because I broke my marriage, he said. And because I used control like it was love. Dr. Reeves nodded once. And you? She asked me. I didn't hesitate. Because I forgot myself, I said. And I won't do that again. There wasn't a fairy tale ending. There was work. There was accountability. There were days ahead that would be difficult and uneven. But there was also something I hadn't felt in a long time. Ownership of my own life. And that was the real lesson. When you catch my husband cheating, the biggest choice isn't whether to forgive him. It's whether you forgive yourself for the years you spent shrinking. I didn't know yet what would happen to our marriage. But I knew what would happen to me. I would not beg again. I would not go silent again. I would not trade my dignity for the illusion of peace. And if you're listening to this right now, I want you to hear me clearly. Love without respect is not love. It's control dressed up in romance. If you made it to the end, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next story. Hit like if you want more narratives like this, and drop a comment. Should Imani stay and rebuild, or walk away and start over? And don't forget to tap the end screen to watch the next video waiting for you.